Hello, good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak about my favorite subject, which is, of course, blended learning, or as we call it at Mohawk, blanded learning, which I think is much closer to what it really is. Now, it may be just a coincidence that Mohawk College is run by another guy by the name of Rob, but maybe it's not. There seem to be similarities in the way we roll things out in Mohawk College as compared to the city of Toronto. In a nutshell, blended learning was rolled out poorly. It was poorly financed. It was poorly communicated. It began back in around 2009, and it was 2012 when they told us what it meant. So there's a bit of a 3-year gap there between rolling it out and actually explaining what the darn thing was supposed to be. So originally we had the impression that this was something that was going to be used in I think we call it differentiated learning, where students who preferred online learning would get online learning, people who preferred a combination would get the blended, and those who wanted face-to-face would get face-to-face. However, Mohawk College has learned a lesson that the rest of academia has yet to learn, and that is that all that stuff you learned about students having different learning styles, it's rubbish. Okay, it's all rubbish. There is only one learning style, therefore you can roll out blended learning with only one option for people, and it's guaranteed to work. That was a joke, sorry. Okay, so the way that it works at Mohawk College is if your class is 3 hours, one of those hours is blended, is online. I was going to blend part of this presentation, but some jokes just aren't funny. If you have a 2-hour class, 50% of it is blended. So what that can mean is you have a 1-hour class. Now, I did 15 years at Sheridan College, and I remember doing classes that were split into 2-hour and 1-hour blocks, and the 1-hour block is absurd. It does not work. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I never had much luck with those 1-hour classes. We have lecture courses that don't involve lectures. Anything that isn't in a lab is called a lecture course. I teach in the English department, language studies, and we don't do lectures, but it's called a lecture. So defining our terms, which is what I always tell my students to do, doesn't seem to follow through as you move up the ladder of academia, or actually I shouldn't even call it academia, sorry. It's been a game of cat and mouse trying to figure out what the college wants us to do. They have not consulted faculty. I've gone to the VPA, I've talked to the president, and I said, you know, some of this stuff might be good if we knew what it was, if you would communicate it to us, and if you would communicate to us exactly how this is supposed to roll out. We're just supposed to make it happen. No consultation with the students. The only consultation that ever happened at Mohawk was when the local put out its report in 2011 about online learning. We actually surveyed almost 1,000 students, got lots of feedback. The college was furious because we didn't follow, apparently there's a procedure you're supposed to follow if you're surveying students. We didn't call it survey, we said it was just getting feedback, so we didn't really understand what the problem was. But anyways, the college has not done any consultation with them, and so this is the way blended learning has been rolled out, and I don't know how similar that is to your experience, but we're always told that we're the leading edge, everyone's watching us. I heard from Jacques that apparently at Centennial, the VPA said, yes, we're gonna roll out blended learning, but don't worry, it's not gonna be like Mohawk. So I'm glad to see that at Centennial they really are watching what we're doing at Mohawk College, just watching the bus go over the cliff. One of the problems at Mohawk is that we don't really have a Mohawk College, we have Mohawk colleges. Each area runs its own silo, and that might sound familiar. The departments go off and do whatever they want. And so just as an example, one of the ideas that the college wants us to adopt is lecture capture, like what we're doing here. do I have copyright or any kind of control over this? No, nothing. Okay. Okay, I feel at home. So lecture capture is being promoted, and we were told initially that it was voluntary, same as the blended learning itself. However, what we've learned is that it's not voluntary in some cases. It depends on who your manager is. So in the business area, we have faculty being told they must use lecture capture. Now this fellow, the Associate Dean in Business, is an interesting fellow. His name is Art, and we affectionately call his area of the college as the Mohawk College of Art, even though it's business. So we're being asked to do this, and some of the faculty have responded by saying, okay, I'll do lecture capture, and so they set up the camera and then they walk away and do their lesson, and so they get the wall there for an hour or however long. So I mean, this is part of the fight back. You know, how do we deal with this? And I mean, it's funny, but it's not, you know, because we have to deal with this, and they have the right to do these odd things. This all comes under their right to manage. As I always say, management has the right to manage, and they're not obligated to do it well, and they usually don't let us down. So another case where the voluntary aspect of blended learning came into question was when our VPA walked into Humanities and Social Sciences regarding Gen Ed courses and said, you will blend or else. So there were no options there. One thing that we've learned, and we learned this actually from the keen faculty who really like all the online wizardry, is that it takes roughly 10 hours to develop curriculum for 1 hour online. Okay, and I don't know if this matches the experience that you've had at your colleges, but it takes a long time. So because it takes a long time, in the end what you got is a big savings, because we're not being given a lot of time to produce this stuff. It happens magically. This year, to give them a little bit of credit, there has been more support. In the Center for Teaching and Learning, we have some people in there that when you go in, they're actually there to help you, and it's a good thing. But it's kind of like you know, closing the door after the barn door after the horses have bolted, because everybody's in a panic trying to get this done, because we've been told that every course will be blended by the end of 2013. It shall be done. So if you want to come down to Mohawk and help me out, I could really use a hand. So this is how it's been, though. It's been arbitrary, it's been autocratic, there's been no consultation. They always say, yeah, we understand that the communication could be better. They always admit that. But I'm always waiting for the follow-up, which would be, and we're going to try and make it better, but I never get that far with them. The conversation sort of ends there. In terms of the students, again, as I said, the assumption here is that everyone learns the same way. Also, the assumption is that all students have equal access to resources, equal access to computers, equal access to all the technology. So when they come to Mohawk, what could go wrong? You know, they just sit down, they do the blended learning, and away we go. But we all know that that's not the case. That there are people who walk into my class who've never used a computer before, because they could never afford a computer, or they're coming in because they were injured on the job, and so they never used it in their first career. And I had a grown man almost in tears because he just didn't know how to work this stupid computer. The computer was a barrier to his education, and that's not supposed to be what community colleges are about. So it's not equal. There's a real class, and I mean class in the socioeconomic sense. There's a real class aspect to this technology, the use of it, the implementation of blended learning that is being ignored. I've been to so many meetings with managers where they say, well, this is how all students learn. No, come on. If they do know computers, they know Facebook, they know Twitter, I mean, they know social media. They don't know this stuff. I'm going to break the computer now, I'm so angry. As far as the enforcement goes, we've had students who were hired by the college to look at our e-learn courses to make sure that we're compliant with all the essential elements. We were told that there were 11 essential elements, and then we found out we were being evaluated on over 90. So their math isn't good, right? Nothing is working here. They attach names to the evaluation so that when you went in to look at your score, you could see other faculty's scores. Think East Germany, only, it's a little, whatever. Older faculty is really, it's really hard on them because if you're not used to it and you're having this shoved down your throat, the learning curve is that much greater. So older faculty are really feeling like they're being singled out, they're being targeted. And after all, they're expensive. We can get part-time, we can get instructors, we can get facilitators or something like that maybe, depending on how they do in the next round of bargaining. Hopefully they're not going to do well, because that's where this whole thing ends. So we responded with our report. We filed a complaint about the class definition because we felt that our academic leadership is being undermined. We haven't pushed it any further, and one of the reasons is because I was at a meeting last week with some of the presidents of the locals, and we were talking about maybe an action involving more than one college, and I think that's probably the most effective way to go. We had members of our Mohawk Student Association fired from the board because they contacted the union about blended learning and wanted to do some surveying of the students. I have good news to report on that. The new president of the MSA has said that he is interested in doing a survey, so we're going to pursue that. So I know I'm down to about 10 seconds. So conclusion, the rollout has been a fly by the seat of your pants operation from the beginning. Poorly communicated, one size fits all, we know doesn't work. Students are not the same, and neither is their approach to learning. And we really need to fight this in bargaining. We've got to put the brakes on this. We have to at least get some control over it, because right now it's being controlled by people who don't teach. And when people who don't teach tell people who teach how to teach, it generally doesn't work well. And in closing, I just want to say that Mohawk's version of blended learning is an excellent marketing tool for Niagara, Sheridan, Fanshawe, etc., etc. Thank you very much.